Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of Greedy Keeps. Today, I have with me Leptys of the Finnish meta, famous Gitrog player, famous Storm player. You didn't create the farm archetype, but you made it an archetype, right? You came up with the second farm deck, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm the primary spokesperson for it,
Yeah,
or
that's
has been
yeah.
since 2018. I wrote a Reddit post for Farm, aka Turbo ad nauseum with Tymna, and the term the term did evolve throughout the ages, especially on 2020, as many community regulars might know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there's that one Lab Maniacs article that I did, which came out 4 hours before Thassa's Oracle was spoiled, and then it was
Rough.
moved. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was all about like, yeah, this works against Hulk and stuff, and then no. But yes, I've been doing some farm slash turbo ad nauseum articles from uh, every now and then. So
So,
yes.
with this deck here, we have Tymna Malcolm. Would you consider this also a farm deck, or what would you call this?
To be honest, I'm actually trying to move away from the word farm as far as I humanly possibly can. So I'm just calling everything turbo ad nauseum because it's concise, it's self-descriptive, and I think it's what these decks are doing. And I don't know if we can call this deck per se a turbo ad nauseum deck because it's not running red. Uh, it's it's running Esper colors, which is actually like just ad nauseum and then something else.
Yeah. So, what's the name of this deck? Actually, we should probably cover that. It's Turbo Tymna Turbo Tide. That's the name.
Yeah, it's the word is chosen for alliteration as well as it is. Sorry, clearing my throat. It's the alliteration that is there, but there it's also it's somewhat self-descriptive. I already said that might not be a turbo deck, but I still put the turbo in the name, so already eating my words.
It's a Turbo
But yeah,
Tide deck. How about that? Maybe it's not a Turbo Ad Nauseum deck, but it is a Turbo Tide deck.
yeah, is turbo tide a paradox though, or because
Well, who
there might be
knows?
some contention with tide and the turbo there, but
Sure.
the alliteration is good. It has a good ring to it, so that's a compromise.
Yeah. So, do you want to talk a bit about like how this deck actually functions before we? I guess we can hop over to our little High Tide screen. We have a little screen just here for High Tide because it's a
Yes.
very important card in the deck. I'll read it
Yes.
actually real quick. So High Tide is a 1 mana instant. Until the end of turn, whenever a player taps an island for mana, that player adds blue to his or her mana pool. So it's a ritual. It allows you to use cards like Snap or Cloud of Fairies or Frantic Search to produce tons of mana. And in the past, in the long distant future of 2017 and 2016, it was one of the most
And 2015 as well.
2015,
Uh,
yeah. Further back,
yeah.
anytime before 20, anytime before 2017 or 2018, I think this is probably one of the most powerful cards in the format. I've mentioned before my first Thrasios and Tymna deck was a Doomtide deck, so that was a High Tide deck as well. Although that was a 4-color High Tide deck, had some interesting problems. So, do you want to talk a little bit about why you're playing High Tide and why you're playing Malcolm and Tymna?
Yes. So high tide is as many people who have played Legacy in the past, especially from 2011 onwards. It's a one-sided mana flare, which is, or not a one-sided mana flare, but a mana flare for 1 mana for blue sources, which are islands in this case. And it's something that was super common, as Brendan already said, in the 2015, 2016, 2017 era of the fastest decks of their time. So, for example, Zur Doomsday, Jeleva Doomsday, and then there were other brews like Mizzix, Ninja Pain Artist, and there's also Jace Rune's Prodigy, which is still played today in some circles, which is like the the purest high tide experience that you might have in mono blue. But yeah, this if we're comparing to any of those decks, this one is pretty close to the Zur Doomsday lists in terms of high tide usage. It's in the same color identity, and a lot of the cards are draw a lot of parallels with the Zur decks of old.
I think if
So
you were to run
there
a
you have it.
diff, like a diff on this deck and the other deck, I think you'd actually find it. There's probably only like 20 cards different, right? Maybe not even that many. Like the mana
Yeah,
base
there
is
are
roughly the
some.
same. The interaction is roughly the same. The
Yeah,
the high type synergies are roughly the same. You have a few new cards like Demonic Consultation, Thassa's Oracle, and Peer into the Abyss, but those cards also kind of align with things the deck was already doing, right?
yes. There's a couple of like modern technology, as one might say, like Thassa's Oracle and Consultation is in Esper colors, or whenever you're playing blue black, it's simply too powerful to pass up on. And Peer into the Abyss, it's a very good mana sink, and High Tide is also helps with that game plan, even though it doesn't produce black. There's also Bolas's Citadel, which is very easy to play off of blue mana when you play Transmute Artifact. Uh, and You have the Bolas's Citadel combos. You have Mind's Desire, which is a really big blue mana sink. And depending on the build, you can also play Time Spiral, which is a really classic high tide storm card from back in the from back of the 2016 2015 decks, as well as legacy decks from
Yeah,
like the early 2010s. So you have a lot of like ways to either get that triple black, or just skip the mana cost, or make the mana cost basically playable with only blue mana. So
yeah.
High Tide does synergize a lot with the different payoffs of the deck.
Yeah, one thing is that it's difficult for this deck to make lots of black mana, so you may think that like, hey, Peer into the Abyss, Bowls of Citadel, those are going to be difficult. But you do have cards like Frantic Search and Cloud of Fairies and Snap and Time Spiral, which do allow you to filter mana. And it's sort of like how in Blue Farm I've seen Cloud of Fairies used to cast a Grand Abolisher. I feel like you're going to do similar things in this deck a lot of the time, where you can like use a Frantic Search to untap your command tower to make double black to cast your Adnals or something like that.
Yeah, it's one thing that we didn't cover before. One thing that it has to be made clear if you haven't checked the list yet from the description. It's 28 lands, and out of those lands, there are only four functional non-islands. So there are a lot of blue sources in this deck, and for that reason, this deck, especially when you skim through it, through the list, it doesn't look like you could play any into the Abyss or uh, Bolas's Citadel or anything of these sorts of cards. So mana fixing helps through those untappers that also synergize with High Tide, but you also have all of these quirkier ways of skipping the mana cost, and there's a lot of different cards that also make black mana in the deck,
Yeah.
as long as you have a single black mana in your disposal.
Yeah, I think the one last thing we need to mention about High Tide is that it means you can't play Tainted Pact, because we're on many, many islands. And so Tainted Pact requiring that singleton mana base, obviously, if Tainted Pact isn't doing that, it's just not worth the slot unless you want to play it as like a really high risk, low reward impulse, it's just not worth running. So we're not on that. So all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else you want to say, Leptys, before we get into the?
Nothing else for now, other than just this deck does use a lot of High Tide as part of its synergies, but there are a lot of different blue stuff that you might not come up with in other Stormier builds of today, like Dramatic Reversal and Hercule's Recall on your own mana rocks and stuff like that. It's classic Storm and mana production in non-red. So there's a couple of other tricks there.
I think the one thing we forgot to mention is that Malcolm is actually very powerful in this deck. So a lot of people are going to be asking why Malcolm over Sakashima. I think once you see the density of blue mana, you start to realize how useful having a creature in the command zone that makes black mana and white mana is. And so often, Malcolm's actually making the mana to play Tymna if you're in that position, but also it's just making the mana to cast Necropotence or Ad Nauseam. That last black mana can just be made off of a Malcolm a lot of the time to make those turn 3 wins way more consistent. So
exactly.
All right. So we're back onto the Greedy Keep screen. Let's go to our first hand. Scrubland, Hullbreacher, Cabal Ritual, Mana Crypt, Felwar Stone, Snow-Covered Island, and a Prismatic Vista. What do you think of this one, Leptys?
This is a 7-card hand that has Mana Crypt and a couple more fast mana sources and one of the quote-unquote Super Flash Brothers, Hullbreacher. It's in a hand that can present eventuality with Malcolm and Tymna, just as engines. And then when you have Hullbreacher there to slow other decks down, I would most likely keep this. I would most likely keep this just because on the back of the Mana Crypt, plus a couple extra mana sources, and a way to slow things down and then to grind. But it definitely depends on the table as well as your position in the turn order. If I was going last, this would probably be just a keep on the back of I have all this fast mana. I hope to draw into a payoff spell of some sort and then just go off as fast as I humanly can. But even if that doesn't happen, you can still play a couple of fast mana pieces, and even if you get wheeled, it doesn't hurt as much. So
I mean, if you get wheeled, you win, right? A lot of times you just flash in the Hullbreacher.
Yeah.
So
yeah, unless you get turn 0 wheeled, but that doesn't matter in terms of picking your opener that much. But yeah, the deck has its slow payoff engines, especially Malcolm in the command zone, and it can cast Tymna as well without relying on Malcolm treasures. And it has the Hullbreacher. Hullbreacher is a sick card. I would probably keep this, even though it isn't the most proactive of hands. In some metagames, I would maybe say I could do better. Let's go for the next hand, and then it's horrible.
Yeah.
Or something. But London Mulligans allow you to go really deep. So
yeah,
if this was my first 7, and it was super duper fast, and I was going first or second, maybe in those cases, I would want to be just greedy and just find the same hand but with the payoff spell.
Yeah,
that isn't Hullbreacher.
Yeah, I do think, in my mind, when I see this hand, we can actually get a Tymna and Malcolm out so early, and we can back that up with a Hullbreacher. That's 3 creatures that can attack with Tymna. It's actually very rare in this deck, in my experience. They'll actually have, 3 creatures that can attack that early. Mm-hmm. So I think this is actually one of the better grind hands the deck probably even has. I'm not sure it gets a lot better than this in terms of relying on Malcolm and Tymna. So I feel comfortable keeping this. And if you're on the play, you can even do some hyper greedy stuff where you turn 1 Cabal Ritual into a Felwar Stone and a Malcolm or something like that. And I don't know, It's it just seems like that's like if you can get a turn one, if on turn two you have 2 lands, a Felwar Stone, a Malcolm, and a Mana Crypt in play, you can just drop the Tymna, attack with Malcolm, start drawing cards. I just think that's really strong.
Yeah, and then like one thing to cover as well is that Hullbreacher is also a pirate, so it actually makes those extra treasure tokens.
That's really
So
sick. I didn't
like
know
this
that.
hand is just all mana, and as you said, this is probably one of the best grindiest hands you could draw with this kind of deck. So unless you're like set on going proactively, which this deck doesn't have to do each time, because this is not like a red deck, so it has to play its outs as a counterspell deck in those several matchups. Like in that sense, like this is a very good hand, and I
All
would
right,
probably keep it.
all right. Let's get a fresh 7. Cabal Ritual, Dark Ritual, Polluted Delta, Mental Misstep, Mox Opal, Felwar Stone, Dark Confidant. What do you think of this one?
All right, so we have 1 land. We have both of our black rituals save for Culling the Weak. We have a Mox Opal. We don't have Metalcraft. We have the Felwar Stone. We have the Dark Confidant. So another grindy hand in terms of the Confidant. This hand can go for can it go for a turn 1 Malcolm? I don't think so. You can go for 4 black mana, or you can go for Malcolm if somebody has a blue source, because you go for 4 black mana with both of the rituals, Felwar Stone, and then you have 1 blue and 2 black, and you can go for Malcolm. Or you can go for the Dark Confidant on turn 1 from the Felwar Stone plus ritual. So yeah, it's a very similar type of hand in terms of just having those engines and the mana to play them during turn 1, and you also have the mana advantage. So if somebody wheels, you probably win.
Yeah, I
If
also
you
think
are that.
another important thing here is that Malcolm makes treasures, which do turn on Mox Opal. So
Yes.
it's not ridiculous that you'd like force out a Malcolm on turn 1, then start making treasures, turn on your Mox Opal, then play your Dark Confidant. But I think what I would be doing here is actually just Dark Ritual into Felwar Stone into Dark Confidant, and then
I would
on
do the
turn
same.
draw an extra card on turn 2, play the Malcolm, turn 3 attack with Malcolm, play Tymna. Hope I've hit something by that point. There's a very high like potent card density in this deck. There's just a lot of really powerful magic cards in here, more than most decks. Like because you just have so many bombs, so many wheels, so many highly interactive creatures, so many 6 mana payoffs. I feel like it's not ridiculous to expect to eventually just draw into a bomb. You know?
Yeah, and it draws parallels with Blue Farm in a way, because that deck is all about top decking those payoffs, and it plays all of them that it possibly can. So this draws a lot of parallels with just, it's kind of like Blue Farm, but there's you miss the most broken lines in terms of Breach and Dockside. So
Yeah.
and then you have the high tide package, which makes everything a culture shock of sorts. But
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, definitely like in terms of top decking the bombs, this deck can do that, and it also has the mana sources too, so that you can expect to also cast them when you top deck them, even like Peer into the Abyss and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
Malcolm helps as well.
Yeah. Malcolm's super. That's why playing it out so early is useful, right?
Exactly.
All right. So are you keeping this one?
As the first 7, I would probably keep this.
Yeah.
I'm a conservative person at heart, so like these hands sing to me, but like when it comes to the more aggressive turbo people who wanna go for the more aggressive hands that actually have the gas spell, like the tutor, like a Wishclaw Talisman or like a Vampiric Tutor or something like that, I would not I would not shun at them for mulliganing this hand, even though this hand is pretty nuts in my opinion.
Yeah, I generally am more aggressive in my mulligans, but this maybe it's the nostalgia I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But this is the type of hand I've kept so many times and won so many games with, back in the old days. So I maybe that's why I'm not as aggressive as I normally am. But I always like a turn one Dark Confidant. To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of like the Dark Confidants and the Sylvan Libraries of the world because I feel like a lot of times they're only really strong if you play them on that first turn. But this hand can play them on that first turn, so it's quite good. So
Yeah, I agree totally there.
All right.
I like it. I like it. It might not be the best hand out there, but I do like it.
Yeah. All right, first 7. Hallowed Fountain, Scalding Tarn, Mystical Tutor, Snow-Covered Island, Memnite, Culling the Weak, Lotus Petal.
All right,
that's pretty
that's
good.
the nuts. That's the nuts. Yeah, turn to ad nauseum. Here we go, boy.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yes, I've actually I've had this precise hand almost in Bad Farm a while ago, except that the Mystical Tutor was an Enlightened Tutor, and the Memnite was the ad nauseum. So I actually just EOT Enlightened Tutor for a Memnite, and everybody was like, "Why? Why do you do that?" And I'm like, "You are already dead." And I won.
Oh, that's awesome.
And yeah, that's why something like Memnite is in the deck. It's just the ultimate calling the weak target. I didn't have it in my original build, but then I was just like I actually just got the inspiration from Braden to just put all the calling the weak friendly creatures in there. There's Bloodpet in as well, and
I have my own list. I'm not on Memnite, but I am on Bloodpet. I think I put in Bloodpet because it plays the turn 2 Malcolm. It's a Calling the Weak target off of an ad nause. But seeing this Memnite here is pretty convincing. This Memnite's doing some very strong political work trying to get me to play it.
Yeah, instant keep.
Yeah,
this is instant keep.
River's going to be pretty jealous that you got one of these hands and he didn't.
Yeah, this is Christmas land right here.
Yeah.
I'm jealous myself.
Command Tower, Blood Pet, Snow-Covered Island, Windswept Heath, Scrubland, Transmute Artifact, Underground Sea. You have like a turn 7 Bolas's Citadel, but that's probably not good enough, right?
If this is the first 7, when you have to draw into a hand that has a lot of lands, you could think of it like this. Can my next 6, for example, if this was the second 7, or can my next 7 cards have more gas cards than this? And there's 2 non-lands in here, so I would pretty easily just mulligan this.
Yeah, I agree.
This is a pretty easy mulligan.
So, Windfall, Watery Grave, Prismatic Vista, Spectral Sailor, Sensei's Divine Top, Misty Rainforest, Soul Ring. This one's actually not bad at all, really.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you think, though.
So, the hand has 3 lands, which is maybe just like 1 land above the norm. There's 2 fetch lands, which synergize super well with Senseis. There's Soul Ring, there's a Windfall, and then there's a Tymna Donger, and also, because it's a pirate as well, it's a Malcolm Donger, if you can call it that as well. So, this hand can go a lot of places. You can play the Soul Ring turn 1, and of course the Senseis. And then you can spin the top and see what's on the top next turn. You can just play a fetch if you don't like what's on the top. So I do like the card selection in this kind of hand. You also have the fast mana, one of the most powerful rocks in the game, that being Soul Ring. And if you just don't like this hand, you go for the Windfall turn 2. So like even this hand, it like I cannot find much to really like. I don't have much bad to say about this hand, to be honest.
So
Like
when I see,
just having a tutor would be really nice here,
yeah,
or for more fast mana, but the fetch lands and the senseis also giving some selection, as well as the Windfall drawing you into a whole new hand on turn 2 if you just don't have anything is good stuff. And then you can also just go for a Malcolm. So yeah.
On turn 1, you can play the Soul Ring into the top, look at the top 3, and then take the best card there, draw it, crack your fetch, and then decide if you want to play the Malcolm and attack with the Spectral Sailor or play the Tymna attack with the Spectral Sailor. Both are like totally decent plans. It depends really on what you want to. You pick off the top 3 of Sensei's Divining Top, what you do there. But I think that's plenty powerful. And if whichever one you play after that, now you're drawing 2 cards and making 2 mana every combat, and that's pretty powerful. It's hard for some decks to keep up with that. Crom decks can keep up with that, but that's a lot of card advantage and mana advantage.
Yeah, it's just a Soul Ring and a Malcolm, but it's still Soul Ring, and it's an engine of Lotus Petals. Like what? A little bit of a tangent here, but like people, I think many people might playing cEDH might just underestimate the pure value of a single treasure when they are playing against Dockside decks all the time. But the treasure token is still a Lotus Petal, a functional Lotus Petal, and that's super powerful. And when you have a Lotus Petal factory in your command zone, it's nice.
Yeah,
it's super nice.
All right, so we're keeping this one. Going to our first 7. Time Twister, Snow-Covered Island, Tundra, Dark Confidant, Command Tower, Dimir Signet. I'm not a fan of this one, are you?
First 7, I would probably mulligan this. I feel that I could do better with a 4-land hand, and Dimir Signet is not the best like mana piece in this deck. And also, we can think about it this way. We're going turn 1, a land pass, and basically nothing. Turn 2, I could play a Dark Confidant or Dimir Signet, and then pass, do nothing. Turn 3, you can start doing something, but like this deck doesn't. In cEDH, you probably want to start playing Magic on turn 1, hopefully turn 2, and preferably on turn 1. So in that sense, I would, especially as a first 7, I would mulligan this hand.
All right. Now we have Demonic Consultation, Bolas' Citadel, Hullbreacher, Pact Negation, Candelabra, and 2 Snow-Covered Islands.
Second 7.
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, this starts to look like my normal hands in terms of getting those 2 islands in there as your lands of choice, and then some black spells that you won't be able to cast without Malcolm. As
the
a second
Hullbreacher, probably will do some work.
The Hullbreacher will do some work, but as a second 7, I would mulligan this pretty.
I agree. Opposition Agent, Wishclaw Talisman, Dark Ritual, Mystic Remora, Lotus Petal, Enlightened Tutor, Snow-Covered Island. Absolutely love this hand. I couldn't ask for more.
It has got it all.
Yeah, it really does.
I don't know if you've rigged these hands in any way, but like these hands are pretty freaking good. This is a 6. So what would be bottom? Probably like you have the turn 1 agent. You also have the Remora. You don't have that many black sources. You only have the Lotus Petal, which is a thing. I would, in that sense, most likely get rid of the Enlightened Tutor here.
So I would actually, So I'm gonna fight to get rid of the Wishclaw Talisman. Here's why. I know this might sound ridiculous, but our opposition agent's probably gonna hit a fetch land. Probably. So that's gonna fix our mana, right? So we're gonna hit probably a black duel. I feel like that maybe even like a, I don't know, or even just hitting like a command tower or something, right? So if we hit the, let's say we hit a command tower because they're that's what makes most sense for us. It's not an island, sadly, but a command tower would fix our mana, and every deck's probably playing command tower. Now we can cast the Enlightened Tutor to tutor for more acceleration, or maybe even just like a Rhystic Study or a Mana Crypt or something like that to pay for the Mystic Remora. I feel like that sets us in a really good position.
Yeah, it's the you are already dead situation when you have Remora and fast mana, more some extra mana sources at your disposal to just keep casting. If you're going first with this hand, you're probably winning the game.
It would be so hard for them to beat you. Even if they like mental misstep your Mystic Remora, you still have this turn 1 opposition agent.
Yeah, this is good hand. This is good hand. I would also agree with you in terms of the Wishclaw getting bottomed here, because we can't
get command tower, by the way. I was wrong. We can't get command tower with opposition agent, but we can get like whatever the best duel is. So maybe that does change it. Unsure.
Yeah, depends on the table, of course, and who's after you and stuff like that. But even then, even if you have one person with that, and almost everybody plays fetch lands if you're not, and even if they're monocolored, they might be playing fetch lands just for the shuffling effect. Like, you probably can just take and pick the player who has the correct colors that you need to keep playing the game.
Yeah, this hand's insane. Let's do one more 7. So we have Transmute Artifact, Mana Crypt, Dark Petition, Marsh Flats, Verdant Catacombs, Spectral Sailor, Swan Song. This is a very interesting 7.
Okay, this is where we get to the interesting point. As a first 7, it has the Mana Crypt still. It has the turn 1 Malcolm. And
it's a turn 2 Dark Petition, I believe. Am I doing my math right there? You won't have Spell Mastery though.
Petition. Yeah.
But even then, I mean, just it's not the worst. You could turn 1 Dark Petition for Grim Monolith, and then on the following turn, Grim Monolith Transmute Artifact for Bolas' Citadel.
Yeah, that's the Transmute Artifact is always screaming Bolas' Citadel to me. And then there's also the Grim Monolith would be a pretty good pick here with Dark Petition. If we're drawing into any instants or sorceries, there's also the option of trying to fish for the Spell Mastery and then do something else.
I think we have to play the turn 1 Malcolm though, or at least the turn 1 Spectral Sailor. We probably actually do the turn 1 Spectral Sailor and then turn 2. No, I think it has to be turn 1 Malcolm to get a turn 2 Dark Petition. But
yeah, turn 1 Malcolm is with Mana Crypt hands. It's pretty easy to go for, and it just the faster you get the Lotus Petals going, easier it gets. And if you want to play Spectral Sailor and Tymna, stuff like that, and hold up mana for Swan Song and just play the control game for a couple of turns, getting that Spell Mastery on, Dark Petition into Grim Monolith, go for the Bolas' Citadel.
Yeah, if you can...
or depending on what you draw.
If you're comfortable waiting, this hand gets much better the longer the game... Like, not much better, but this hand gets better the longer the game goes. Like, if you can cast a couple spells, turn on Spell Mastery, now this combo is becoming just a 5 or 6 mana combo, and that's quite efficient. That's pretty easy for this deck to put together. because the pieces are already in your hand. You already have the protection, and Malcolm generates the mana, and the mana crypt just makes it even easier. So this is a pretty crazy hand, actually.
Yeah.
And if you want to play conservatively, it's very good.
Yeah, this is one of the hands that once again showcase the power of mana crypt, and especially in this deck because like High Tide is very much about this slow roll combo, delay your opponent and go for the last possible turn you're able to go off functionally, and then you go off and preferably with protection and try to win. Well, it's funny that Malcolm actually plays like even without the High Tide, even if you never drew High Tide with this deck, Malcolm would support that game plan 100%.
And
Because
Tymna,
you're getting that, and Tymna as well. So you're getting that mana. You're slowly building up this unbeatable turn, combo turn that you're just gonna maybe sneak a win through, but because of Tymna's ability to also draw you cards, it might be actually just a snowball of value that just eventually catches up to the grind table and wins you the game through multiple counterspells. So, first 7 Mana Crypt, Malcolm. I would keep this hand again. I would keep this hand.
Yeah, I think I would too. Just because the Dark Petition, like having that tutor with the Transmute artifact. So if people don't know, what you do is you get Grim Monolith, and then you can tap Grim Monolith to then Transmute artifact, to pay for the Transmute artifact, and then you get to get a 6-drop out of your deck, and you get a 5-drop, but you have to pay one more, and you can get Bolas' Citadel, and then start storming off with Bolas' Citadel, which is obviously pretty powerful. So
yeah, if you have any of those fetch lands from your opener left during your Bolas' Citadel turn, it gets only easier from there. And also with even though like playing naked Bolas' Citadel is not the best kind of plan, you still have a lot of cards from your top deck that can easily win the game on the spot with Bolas' Citadel.
I mean, a Mind's Desire.
A Mind's Desire is one, but like the biggest ones are actually the 1-mana top deck tutors.
Oh yeah, that too.
That give you, like those are just almost instant wins because any single one of them can get a Sensei's Divining Top on the top. Then you have the Yawgmoth's Bargain that also gives you a lot of Storm. And then you just bargain for a bunch. And whenever you hit a tutor, you get a top deck tutor. You top deck a Reservoir because this deck runs also Aetherflux Reservoir. And you cast it on the off the top of your deck, and you just play any spell and gain a bazillion life.
Probably the top.
Yeah. You like most of my wins have been with that combo: Sensei's Top, Reservoir, and Bolas' Citadel. So
yeah, it's very clean. It doesn't sound very clean, but it is actually pretty easy to assemble, and that's how most decks used to win, was Aetherflux Reservoir back in the day. So before console was popular, we used to be Hercules recalling our Drox and replaying them and doming our opponents for 50. So it's pretty fun to see that back again. All right, I'm going to call that an end to the Greedy Keeps. Any last words for the deck, Leptys?
Well, out of those hands, I guess the summary of this is that because if you can get 2 and a blue, and if you can do that in a reasonably quick fashion, you can probably play any hand that this deck gives you, because Malcolm just brings you there eventually. And then it's just about how greedy do you want to be? How fast my meta is at the moment. Can I afford to keep this slower hand in a field full of Dockside decks? Because this deck feeds Dockside a lot.
Yeah.
And it feeds Carpet of Flowers a lot. And it's classic Storm, so it feeds Mystic Remora a lot. So all of these very powerful cards that people play, they become even more volatile, and you might not be able to outrace them. So keep that in mind when you're playing against those faster decks. But if you're playing against slower decks or mid-range adaptive decks of your caliber, then like you almost can't go wrong with most of these hands, as you can see.
And the deck is...
we were very lucky as well with those hands. So,
I do want to say the deck is fast. Like, the deck can be fast. It can threaten a lot of like turn 2 or turn 3 wins. But it also is very grindy, and it's also able to draw lots of cards and make lots of mana over the course of a few turns, and build up resources to like have that threatening turn you talked about. So just be aware of that if you end up picking up the deck. And look for the broken hands that we got to see today. Because they were pretty good.
If you start playing the deck, give me all the data that you have. I will take them. My Discord is Leptys #9970. So throw your PMs over there. And if it's about shameless plug, I might as well do it right here. I do have a Twitch stream that I put on every Wednesday, or almost every Wednesday, and it's basically cEDH Finland in a nutshell. There's a lot of the older as well as some of the newer cEDH players from Finland that participate in the streams, and we do a lot of collabs, at least call a lot of guests from all around the community. So that is twitch.tv/Leptys, Leptys. So you can find me there.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll leave links to that right in the description for people to find. And you guys, if you've never seen an episode of Greedy Keeps, it's a lot like this most of the time. I hope you, if you're interested in any decks, we've probably done a Greedy Keeps on the deck. We're reaching a point where we have quite a few of them. If you like stacks, we've got Yasharn and Winota. If you like Turbo Nas, we've got Kess and Tymna and Corvold. So we got a lot of different types of decks, a lot of fun stuff. If you're interested in supporting the content, you can always check out the Patreon and our Discord, which will both be in the description. It's really appreciated. We're always trying to grow the community around the channel, and supporting the Patreon and hopping on the Discord is the best way to do it. So thank you, and thanks, Leptys, for coming on. You're a fantastic guest, as always. You're a great member of the community. Happy to have you on. And,
thank you for tolerating my barrage of these filibusters that I throw up every time I get the chance to do it. But thank you for having me. This was long overdue.
For sure.
I should have just barged in back in spring with some janky brew, I think. But
yeah, I
mean, now I'm making it up right now. I'm doing my best.
Yeah, I honestly, I love this deck. It reminds me of the games I played at my LGS back when I was in college, and it's very very nostalgic of what cEDH used to be like before Demonic Consultation and Dockside ruined the format. So
yeah, it's definitely a nostalgia trip, and it's basically one of the main reasons why I made the deck as it is. So enjoy the nostalgia, or enjoy the change of pace if you're bored with your blue-black consult deck.
Yeah, and if people pick it up and popularize the deck, maybe we'll get to play against more high tide decks. That'd be pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, all right. Have a nice night, everyone. Have a good one. Thanks for watching, and keep checking out Greedy Keeps. See ya.